5, 4, 3, 2. I can't count. Okay, we're out.
Morning everybody, welcome to the Olympian Table. It's Stephen Williams. I'm here by myself today with normally I'm here with Laura and Courtney. And today we're going to talk about the breaking news of Mr. Trump, the Donald. And we're going to talk about the Donald and basically about the Supreme Court of Colorado coming out with a decision last night, which basically says that he cannot be on the ballot in, I believe it's Colorado, for the 2024 presidential election. And I just want to say how refreshing that is that America's got a little bit of common sense at last. And it's, I want to talk a little bit about this situation. It will go to the US Supreme Court, and the general feeling is now that what's going to happen is the US Supreme Court, being, on the right wing, basically are waiting for some of the people in the Republican Party to take a stance against Mr. Trump. So what happens is, if they see somebody taking a stance against Mr. Trump, then they will agree with the ruling in Colorado, and there's also some other states following Colorado that will actually say, okay, we agree with you, okay? But if nobody stands up from the Republican Party, then what's going to happen is they're just going to basically overturn, what's happened. And one of the things I just want to sort of talk about, this insurrection and some of the comments that is made about things, is, some of the comments is made about, all the immigrants vermin. Well, I want to talk a little bit about European history today. One of the things that America does not do is they don't talk about their history. They won't even teach the true history. They say it's the critical race theory, okay? Americans do not talk about their history, so how can you learn about what you need to do for the future to make a better society if you don't talk about learning how you could have been better in the past? In Europe, being European, we learnt a lot about European history. In European history, we learnt a lot about Hitler. We learnt about Mein Kampf. Mein Kampf, we learnt about that in general. We learned, I'm not saying I read Mein Kampf, but we learned some of the phrases that came from it. We learnt about how he tortured people, how he tortured the Jews, all right? And the things that are coming out of Mr. Trump's mouth at the moment are nothing but autocratic. Americans, wake up. If you can't see that, immigrants are the strength of this country. When you have a potential president turning around and saying that they are changing the blood of the country, wake up! Wake up to what you're listening to. It's not normal thinking what you're listening to. This could change. He basically wants to rip up your Constitution. Everybody says how proud you are of your Constitution, all right? But he even wants to kill Mr. Milley, who was with the army and served 30 years in the business. He's got 91 indictments against him. You've got a Constitution that he wants to rip up. He said physically he wants to rip up your Constitution. Wake up, America. That's really what you've got to do. All right? I agree with gun rights. And I'm a liberal. I don't disagree with that. I do agree with who we give arms to. All right? Every country has mental health problems. But there's still more shootings in America than any other country, so wake up. But going back to Mr. Trump, okay? He wants to put in a Muslim ban. Is that not racial in itself? Is that not the same thing that Hitler did in 1932 to 39 before the World War? But he just changed it because it was the Jews. And here he is turning around and says he wants a Muslim ban. Here he is turning around and saying, that we're changing the blood. This morning I was listening to Morning Joe, And it really opened my eyes, all right, because he's a Christian, and he was basically saying that there's a lot of Christians out there that are taught to love thy neighbour, all right, that are taught to do all these good things. But apparently, Mr. Trump is the saviour to save America. And that's why Christians are basically staying with him. Christians, wake up. He's not a prophet. What he's doing is dividing America. Look what has happened to America. He's divided America. I came over in 1995, all right, and to be perfectly honest, all right, America has become more divided the last 20 years. And it's become a lot more divided in the last 8 years while he's becoming on the scene than what it was in the last 20 years. So please wake up, America. Do something about it. Take action. Get out there and vote, but wake up. Critical race theory is part of your history. It should be part of your learning process. Then books should not be banned from libraries. They should not be banned. Let me just change this because I don't want to. But basically then books should not be banned. It's part of your history. That's like saying all the books, well, we've had autocracies in Europe, all right? So autocracies, just like Trump is trying to do at the moment with the things that are coming out of his mouth, are the exact things that were taught to me as a kid in school in the UK. And that's why Europeans are so worried about the situation the US is getting into at the moment. That's why the Europeans, all right, are upset in Hungary. They've been very democratic in what they've done, all right, and basically you've just got to wake up, you know, smell the roses in the morning. But you are not the freest country in the world if you let somebody like this come into power, all right? Not all Democrats want to take your guns away, all right? But I do think there needs to be restrictions on guns. But, you know, for somebody that has guns, I will tell you that it's just BS. You know, but if you're European and you understand the problem about history, the things that are coming out of Mr. Trump's mouth are exactly the same things that came out of Hitler's mouth in the 30s. All right? Jews were the problem. The Muslim ban. You know, the vermin were the Jews. The vermin of the immigrants coming into this country. This country was built on freedoms. It was built on the opportunity that every American has. It was built on opportunity. What's happening is at the moment is part of the problem is that the corporations are putting money and they're basically influencing the middle class. It's the middle class that built this country. The immigrants coming in, there's a family that I know that have basically been here for 6 years. They work from 7 in the morning to 10 at night. They now own 7 bakeries. They haven't done it just by sitting down on a couch. And my answer to a lot of Americans is, you want to stop the immigrants? You know, well, have a guess what? Who's going to pick your fruits? Who's going to do your laws? All right? It's just not going to happen. So with that, I've said my piece. I've had my shout. I've had my rant. Wake up. Next issue on the Olympian Table.
Aside from, I guess it's not an issue, but we briefly touched over it, but I think it is really interesting that Trump got knocked off the ballot in Colorado by the Supreme Court of Colorado. So I wonder if other people or other states are going.
Yes, they are.
to-
There's another 5 states.
Oh, that are taking him off.
Yeah, that are basically saying he shouldn't be on the ballot for insurrection.
Yeah, I think that he should have been thrown out of the White House, to be honest.
You know? I mean, with what he didn't wait 3 hours. He didn't wait to call people off on the day of the insurrection.
I mean, he invited them in.
You
They
know,
opened
one
the
policeman
gate.
was killed. Goodness knows how many people were injured. You know, come on, wake up. But, you know, it was interesting listening to Morning Joe this morning when Joe was basically saying that, you know, that a lot of people think in evangelicalists, I hope I said that properly, you know, and different religions, that he's now the Messiah.
Yeah.
He's been sent from God. That in itself is frightening. That's a cult.
It is a cult.
That is nothing but a cult.
That's scary. It's scary
So
to
if you-
have people that are able to think that. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Like,
It's just nuts. I cannot believe that America, of all countries, you know, have basically come to this level.
it's super dangerous, I'll say.
So, next topic. Let's move on with something happier.
Happier? I don't know if this is happier. Are we talking about the influencers being poor, or are we talking about...
Yeah, let's talk about that. There's a lot of influencers out there that, you know, it was interesting. A couple of weeks ago, what we spoke about was there's a lot of kids now that are coming out of school, and what they're doing is they don't want to become an electrician, they don't want to decide to be a plumber. I guess there's too much shit in that job. But basically, they don't want to do the trades. There is a shortage of tradespeople at the moment, you know, and there's another reason why, you know, people turn around and say about immigrants, it makes me look, you know, it drives me nuts, because as a property management company that manages over 500 properties, we have problems finding really good tradespeople, you know. There's a lot of tradespeople out there that really I wouldn't even let build my dogs a dog cage. But basically, what's happening is 70% of people, 70% of high school students now have had a desire to be an influencer on YouTube. And out of that 70%, it's nearly 2% that make it. Correct, Kay?
Yeah.
Because I know you work in the business, I mean, you're a professional in the business.
Yeah.
So basically now we're in a position, what's happening is some of them influencers are actually putting so much money into that, just like they would a regular business, that they're actually going broke.
Yeah. So we have...
And speaking from us, we run this podcast, don't we, on a tight budget. But the truth of the matter is, it gets the word out there, it gets some interesting points out there, but the truth of the matter is, we don't really make any money from it, do we?
Not really, no. We get people that come to chat with us, and you know...
We just want to give them the opportunity to get out there and get some business, but we don't
Yeah.
directly make money from it,
Yeah, there's no...
you know.
Even with me, sometimes, like with my donations, like when I stream and stuff like that, I'll make, I'll have streamed for like 3 days a week, and I'll make $50 that month, even though I stream like 3 days a week for like 4 hours, I'll only make $50 that month, but I do it because it's fun. Some months I'll make, $500-600, but that's still a low amount. That's not enough for someone to be able to live off of, So it's like, I think people think that it's easy, but they don't understand that you have to keep upgrading. Like even with us, like here we have to do
Well, we don't do
research.
the podcast enough. We should be doing the podcast every day if we really wanted to.
That's basically.
Is that true?
No, it doesn't have to be every single day, but it is one of those things where it's like the research that you have to do, and you have the amount of like relevance that you have to do to stay up with it. That's where a lot of people don't realize that it's like you can't just turn it on and talk. Like people think that especially because there's so many people with podcasts. A lot of people, like, I'll hang out with my friends and we'll just be laughing, and they're like, we should start a podcast. And I'm like, no, we shouldn't.
Yeah,
Like, you have no idea.
I follow a football team called Aston Villa. I've followed them since I've been 7 years old. And there is a podcast that I watch all the time. It's called Up the Villa. All right. Well, they have a podcast every day, but he talks about statistics. He talks about, you know, formations of the football team. When I get home every night, have a guess what I'm doing? I'm watching that day's version of that podcast. You know, so you've got to have something interesting to talk about, especially when we're second in the league. So, anyway.
So there's this.
And we could be top of the league at Christmas because we've got a game on Friday.
There's this video here that I wanted
So let's share that
us
video.
to watch. So check this out. Let's see what we got. If we can get some music to play on this thing.
Jason Nash, who used to be best friends with David Dobrik back in 2019, is now begging for money on TikTok Live. Although he often has less than 70 viewers when he goes live, he's constantly encouraging people to leave him gifts because of his drastic decline in popularity. And this got people thinking about how influencers are going to support themselves in the future. There are exceptions like Charlie D'Amelio, Addison Rae, Bella Poarch, Mr. Beast, and even the Paul brothers, who have made so much money in the past couple of years that it won't really matter if they lose all their followers overnight. Influencers are going broke. Recently, people...
So this guy here, for example, his name was Jason Nash, right? And we can look him up right now. I just want us to, let's look him up. Let's see. Jason Nash. He used to be very, very famous. He used to be part of like a very, very famous like person a few years ago. He has 2.4 million followers on TikTok, but only 70 people join his live streams. That is a crazy, that's not even, you know, it's not even 1% of his following that joins his live stream. So he's just begging them for money and asking them for things so that he can basically survive, because I'm sure he lives in like a multi-million-dollar mansion and things like that, but yeah, he literally just is, I don't know, he's literally just a guy now, and he's trying to get people to you know, do things for him on TikTok, which is crazy. My sister is a TikToker, and she does the same things.
He just needs to sell his home.
Yeah, yeah, realistically.
You know, because he's living beyond his means, and I have no sympathy at all for people that live beyond their means.
Oh yeah, and I mean, this guy's also got a different type of past. You know, he's got a colored past, but it kind of goes to what you were talking about the fact that, you know, kids, there are so many opportunities now in the trade. You know, if you can just stick around for a couple of years to get your HVAC, I think it takes like 5 months to get your HVAC certificate. So just little things like that, like you can go and do that and you can be successful in life, but people want to make what they think is easy money, not knowing that it might be just as hard as just having a regular 9 to 5 as being an influencer. So,
well, I really think a lot of these people that were influencers, that they just need to get a life, to be perfectly honest, because it's not a regular life.
yeah,
You know.
It's definitely one of those things where you have to put way more work into it at the beginning, like the first couple of years, and then that's when you start seeing your work, you know, flourish, rather than, you know, people think that, oh, you just do it immediately, or you do it after, you know, a few months, and that's how you get famous, and that's not the case. So,
Well, you know, I really think, I mean, even some of these YouTube people, you know, you send them money, you know, and I don't really even agree with that, to be perfectly honest.
yeah.
You know, to me it's a bit like begging, online begging.
It's one of those things, yeah. It's one thing if you donate to just, you know, support them, but when they start going on and asking for money.
If you're giving them money for a cause,
Mhm.
that's what I would do.
Yeah.
like the humanitarian, side of Ukraine, or even the humanitarian side of, what's happening in Gaza. I'm with Israel, I want to support Israel, but I think that people in Gaza are getting, Hamas need to be punished, not the people that are living in Gaza.
Yeah.
Actually, talking about that, I'm driving down Westheimer the other day. Do you know what I seen? A truck with a Russian flag on it, with a Z on the side of the truck, which was the Russian emblem for the Ukraine war.
Oh, that's interesting.
In the middle of Houston.
Yeah, that's.
I'm thinking that's a way to get shot.
That's kind of crazy. I don't think people even know what that are paying attention. Thank goodness, because what the heck? We're just.
Anyway, that's
outraged.
excuse me taking that call, but that was just. I just had a message regarding my mom in England who's in 24/7 care. I hope she's okay, so I have to call them after the podcast. Anything else that we want to talk about?
No, I just wanted to. I mean, we got kind of the important things going. We talked about everything really that we had to talk about today. So I think that we're good on all of that. But yeah, I'm interested to see how this election is going to go this time around, because it was already last year's election, or not last year's, but last election was so much and just so tasking that I'm just like.
I'll tell you what worries me about the 2024 election. There was so much victimization that went on after the election for the election workers. Just like 148 million was recently awarded to the two ladies in Georgia because of the words of Rudy Giuliani. I mean, they'll never see that money because they'll declare bankruptcy.
Oh wow.
But the truth of the matter is, he's not worth 148 million. Apparently he's got one piece of property that's worth 500,000 in New York. Well, he'll have to sell that. But the truth of the matter is, that's what worries me. We could be in a position where we haven't got the number of election workers to work the voting stations, and they're scared.
That makes sense. I just feel like, unfortunately, I feel like a lot of people already have their minds made up on before they even see who's on the ballot. I feel like nobody cares what anybody says. I feel like they already just have their minds made up with who they're going to vote and things like that. So that's the thing that I'm worried about, is
But that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make any sense at all. People should be listening to what people stand for. How can you ever change anything in your country if you really haven't? Or what I really can't understand about the Trump thing is accountability and responsibility go together. And if you can't be accountable for your actions, then it's just not right.
Yeah.
And I don't think, he says one thing one time, then sometimes he backtracks on things. I don't want anybody like that as president. It's not that I'm anti-Trump, but I just don't agree with what he stands for. And that's how I'm going to vote. Now, would I vote for Nikki Haley? I would at one time, but if she can't stand up to Trump and basically say, I don't agree with what he says, and when she turned around and says, well, he was the right person at the time in 2016. No, he wasn't.
Yeah.
He caused 4 years of chaos, and we're still trying to get through the chaos.
I was gonna say, I mean, at least 6 years of chaos is what he.
We're still going through the chaos 8 years later.
Exactly. It's just
We're still going through 91 lawsuits.
Yeah.
They appealed 67 times. Every single one of them failed.
I just don't want the presidency to be a spectacle. That's what.
How do you think Europe and the rest of the world, Putin's laughing at us, Xi's laughing at us, all right? All the countries that have always been anti-American, and what I find really laughable is the comments that he made about, will I get on with Putin? Will I get on with Z? Will I get on with they're all authoritarian leaders, okay? We fought a Cold War with Russia for over 50 years, and you think that somebody can just come in and solve the problem?
Exactly. I think that was like the main thing. It interested me when I saw, Republicans of all people kind of like they were supporting Trump, but he was going to they said or our.
Yeah, but it's like Z. When Trump was in power, what did he say? I'm going to put an import tax on China. All right. Well, in that case, he didn't get on too well with them then. Now what's he saying? Oh, I get on with Z. Me and Z, we're buddies. We're going to put arms around one of them.
Yeah. But it's just they were supposed to be America's quote unquote enemies. But as soon as Trump was like, "Oh, I'm friends with them," and that all went out the window, and it's like that doesn't make any sense. Like,
what did he say about Kim Jong-un?
What did he say?
We will meet you with fire and thunder.
Oh,
We
yeah.
will obliterate you, basically. And now he's best friends with him. He shouldn't have even met with the guy. There is more poverty in North Korea than any other country. Apparently from the space station you can see it. There's no electric. It's completely dark at night time.
Yeah.
Their people suffer from poverty. They eat grass to survive.
They have a fake city.
Yeah, it's empty.
Yeah, but there's just fruit.
And it's
stuff
like,
there.
really?
Yeah.
He's on another planet. I say send him to the moon. Anyway, I guess that's it for today.
That's all we have for today.
And then tomorrow we'll have the Texas real estate show, which will talk about nothing but real estate, and Trump will not be on the table then. He won't even be on the vote.
He's
So-
not going to be on our ballot.
Yeah. So until same time, same channel next week. See you later.